Welcome to Create to Learn, digital book creation and virtual field trips. Thanks for the opportunity to be a part of the 2020 L2 Digital Literacy Symposium. We're looking forward to sharing ideas with you and being part of this innovative online conference. Our recorded session today will be about 25 minutes long. Anyanap Chigig Sherilyn Analla, Anyanap Amjad Kolmak Chikoek. My name is Sherilyn Analla, and I'm a member of the Gila River Indian community, which is located near Phoenix, Arizona. I'm also a member of the Pueblo of Laguna, which is west of Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm a doctoral student in teaching and teacher education with an emphasis in early childhood education and a minor in linguistics at the University of Arizona. I've been in the field for over 20 years as a teacher and program administrator.
Hi, I'm Jill Castek, an associate professor in the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Sociocultural Studies. I also work with the Interdisciplinary Second Language Acquisition and Teaching Program at the University of Arizona. We frame this session around two detailed examples of virtual exchanges. We invite you to experience these examples along with us through an exploratory lens of possibility for what design features may be possible in your own implementation. The two illustrative examples provide the backdrop to illustrate the use of digital applications and tools in a purposeful way with the chance to learn some concrete how-tos. We aim to inspire your creativity as you think about engaging your learners in designing digital experiences that expand their outlook, anchor their learning, and deepen their thinking about the physical, geographical, and cultural world around them. We know that there are a lot of pre-made virtual field trips on the internet. However, we planned this set of materials around creating your own virtual field trips and engaging virtual exchange projects. The Create to Learn approach involves learners in the act of meaning making, not by viewing or listening to how others have come to understand, but instead by engaging and constructing their own understanding through doing, thinking, and creating their own artifacts.
Today, we are going to explore an example of the Create to Learn approach through the development of a children's book that I created. First, I'm going to show you a few pages of the story so that you can experience it for yourself. Then I'll walk you through 2 pages of the book in a little more detail so that I can show you how my process was inspired by the connections that I have to my indigenous community of Gila River and to its children, families, and land. My book was the final project from my Tohono O'odham language class. Tohono O'odham is an indigenous language of Arizona with several dialects and orthographies. I'm a learner of the O'odham language, by no means a fluent speaker, and my dialect is not Tohono O'odham. It's Akimel O'odham, which is the dialect spoken by the people from the Gila River Indian community. However, I wrote my book using the Tohono O'odham dialect and orthography for my class. My children's book has 2 purposes. One, to be a book for children and adults to read as an introduction to the O'odham language, and 2, as a mentor text for teachers who are interested in creating digital literacy materials for students of any age. The title of my book is Ani Anihim Inyuhu Urki Wi, or I am going to my grandma's house. It's about a quail's journey through the desert with his family to visit his grandma. On this slide are 6 pages of the book. The story opens with Sop Kakachu introducing himself by giving his name and telling us where he's from. He references the mountains in the background as his home area, Kolmaktoak, which means high thin mountain in Akimel O'odham. On page 2, Sop Kakachu introduces us to his father's parents, which is how O'odham introduced themselves so that they can establish relationships with each other, because the person you might meet could be connected to you somehow. They can make this connection if they know where you're from and who your family is. Sop Kakachu would also introduce us to his mother's parents, but that's on another page. Further along in the book, Sop Kakachu tells us that he sees his friends as he walks to his grandma's, and he tells us which friends he sees. He also tells us a little bit about where he walks with his mother and siblings, through the desert and over the rocks. He finally sees his grandmother's house, and she's cooking beans and warming tortillas. The setting of the story takes place at the base of a mountain range called Comaktuak, where I grew up in the Gila River Indian community. It sits across from the site where I taught preschool and it's a mountain range that the children and I would talk about every day. The mountain is so significant that I have many, many pictures of it for every season. I used the pictures I had on my phone as the background for my book. I drew the character images by hand using Notability. I uploaded my pictures and drawings into Canva. And from there, it was basically layering the drawings over the pictures and then typing the text over both to create the book. I also added sound files for narration, and we'll see an example of that in the next slide. So a little more about the technical background of the book. When I finished the design in Canva, it was in PDF form. I downloaded it and took screenshots of each page so that they could transfer into JPEGs, which would allow me to upload them into ThingLink. ThingLink is a digital annotation tool that can turn images into interactive graphics. Using ThingLink, I augmented the book so that it went beyond just being a typical read aloud with a traditional printed copy or a one format digital viewing experience. I use ThingLink to add annotations for more content. Next, you will see two enhanced examples of the pages you viewed in the last slide, augmented with a ThingLink platform. Here's page 1 again, but this time you can see that there are flashing hotspots with links to additional content. When I click on a hotspot, it will lead me to supplemental information that I researched, curated, and edited for content. The information supports and highlights features of my book that I can share in a way that I could not have if I used a printed copy or a view-only digital text. Here are some examples of how hotspots make my book more interactive. If I click on this red eye, it will lead me to information about the Otham dialects that I have previously mentioned. This tag also has a link to the Endangered Languages website where the Otham language is discussed in more detail. You can see that here. If I click on the other red eye, it will take me to an information box that contains the text I wrote, providing more information on dialects and orthographies. The blue link is to the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community's Otham Posh language program website, where they have a description of the orthography and sound files for the language. If I click on this green picture icon, I am taken to a virtual field trip link of the area, and we'll explore this hotspot later. If I click on the blue icon, the blue book icon, or simply hover over it, I'm given an English translation of the Otham text. If I click on the blue play icon, I can hear a voice recording that narrates the text in the Otham language. I included the English translation of in the information box also. As you can see through these examples, the text becomes more interactive. Let's look at another page where we are at Sap Kakechu's Hu'uru's house, his mother's mother. If I click on the camera icon, we see a historical photo of an oraski, which is a traditional type of home that Otham lived in a long time ago. Sap Kakechu's grandma lives in this type of house. Alongside the image is informational text that I wrote about the construction of the oraski. And if you look closely, you can see that the mountain in the photo is Comaktoag, and here it is in the back. When I click on this green eye, we are given more information about the significance of the Hashan, the saguaro for the Otham. The link takes us to an Arizona Sonora Desert Museum lesson plan about food harvesting. You can see it here. If we click on the play icon here, we are led to information about chichimut or tortillas and to a YouTube video of Thana Otham making chimut on the same type of komad that Sap Kakechu's grandma uses when she warms her chichimut. And you can see it right here in the back. Some of the issues that influenced my book design are related to 1, conveying accurate information, 2, using supplemental information creatively, and 3, the questions that children, their parents, or caregivers and other teachers might ask about content. Although I used digital and virtual components in my book design, I wanted to emphasize our awesome pedagogies of using land, language, and culture in ways that honor and respect our traditional interactive and interpersonal teaching methods. I also wanted to evaluate the information and resources that are available on the internet about Indigenous communities, O'odham in this case, so that I could develop my own awareness of how much content is inaccurate or incomplete. Honesty and accuracy in relaying a story is important, and I found in my internet searches that the information about my community is either inaccurate or incomplete. Before I could utilize any information for a ThingLink hotspot, I corrected a lot of misinformation. Part of the editing process included reaching out to my own community resources and individuals for clarification. Identifying and curating links that are both informative and interesting was an effort because I toggled between doing the additional research for accurate information and going down rabbit holes of finding more websites that could be improved. It was discouraging to correct or supplement information in my own ThingLink, knowing that it's already circulating on the internet. An important thing to think about is that as more schools are moving online during COVID, the need for digital resources is higher now. But for Indigenous communities, teachers and students cannot simply go to a website and find quality information about themselves. Thankfully, more tribes and schools are beginning to address this issue as they go online with their classrooms and tribal educational programs. Questions related to dialects and orthographies always arise when the O'odham language is written, and I use the opportunity to embed links that introduce information about these subjects so that participants interacting with the story could have some of their questions answered. Literacy in the O'odham language is also a fairly recent form of technology, as communities are developing orthographies for their dialects. Supporting it with digitally interactive methodologies that also make appropriate cultural connections is a comfortable combination. Questions about O'odham culture and history are usually asked when books refer to the topics. I was able to make links to some of the cultural aspects of the book, like the traditional O'odham home, the Oraski. To make a connection from the drawing in the book to a real historical image with the mountain Komatuag in the background is significant. Being conscious of the images and how they would make the readers feel connected to the land was an important factor when I chose which images to use in my book. I wanted it to have a purpose beyond simply being a story to read. I wanted to draw out the connections between the readers and the O'odham land, language, and cultural depictions. Future work on the book will be to put it in my dialect and to make it more interactive with even more ways to bring the language to life. The examples I demonstrated are a few ways that I extended my book from being a simple read aloud to a more immersive experience in the O'odham landscape, language, and cultural context. In creating this book, I thought considerably about how to connect people to the land and to our experiences as O'odham through a story using images we connect with every day, sometimes without noticing. I moved from the story with the goal of connecting readers to the land in more ways than doing a simple read aloud. I utilize characters and landscapes that are familiar to our people in ways that strengthen and sustain the relationships we already share with the land, language, and culture. It's an example of how digital literacies or any heuristic can capture the meaning and layered connections, the meaningful and layered connections of a culture when they are designed by people from those same communities.
Designing a cohesive project like the one Sherilyn created is about design choices. We offer 3 guidelines to consider around design choices. First, the visual appeal of the project should enhance, not distract from the overall message or goal. Finally, be selective about design and navigation. Your project will shine when it links out to accurate and relevant information that enhances the meaning-making experience.
I'm going to demonstrate how to make a hotspot using page 12 of my book, where Sop Kakachu complains, "My mother and siblings walk so fast. I walk slowly. It's hot." The hotspot I'm going to make is for the current temperature of the area around the Komatuag in Comac, Arizona. First, I found a weather resource on the internet using the search Comac, Arizona temperature. and I have the URL address already saved, so we can move to the next step. In ThingLink, I'm going to click on Edit, which brings me to a page where I can add hotspot annotation. I'm going to click on Add Tag, which will give me different options to create a hotspot. I'm going to choose Add New Text and Media. Then I'm going to paste the URL for the temperature website into the button URL. You will see that a box opens up with the blue link to the website. I'm going to go to the button text and rename the link to Kolmak Doak current temperature. Once that is done, I can go to where it says title and change the title of the information box to temperature for Kolmak Doak. I can also add any information I want to convey in the information box where it says description. Here, let's click on the link below to see the current temperature of Saskatchewan walk. Finally, I can add the icon for the hotspot using the Change Icon button. I have a custom temperature button down here already, so let's use that one. I will click on it and hit Done. You'll see that we'll move back into our original page where we can see the temperature icon, and we can move it to a place where it's an appropriate fit. Let's put it here. Then I can hit Done. And we're back on the ThingLink main page where the temperature hotspot is now a part of the story. And if I click on those links, it will take me to the current temperature. It's 96 degrees where Saskatchewan lives.
We've offered you a peek into some powerful ways to create digitally enhanced storybooks. Let's consider some summary points framed as application considerations. First, the Create to Learn framework, where students create the content, is a powerful chance for you and your learners to have voice and choice in learning. However, to implement this approach for greatest impact requires planning, coordination, and collaboration. Always be flexible. Online, interfaces change. Applications sometimes go away without warning. And that's really the reality of the internet. As instructors and as learners, we have to remain patient, think flexibly as our projects unfold to pivot where the need arises to different websites or different apps to support our learning. Finally, it's important to often include offline options for online work, since internet access isn't always stable and sometimes uncertain.
In our previous discussion about digital enhancements in my book using ThingLink, I gave you a preview of a virtual field trip to Kolmak Doak that I embedded as a hotspot on page 1. I'm going to briefly show you how a virtual field trip to the area where Saskatchewan lives enhances the story and gives you a connection to the land. The field trip is an opportunity for you to experience the land geography, community sights and sounds for yourself. I'm going to click the waypoints, which are the pins, so you can see the content. Keep in mind that the Kolmak Doak is on the Gila River Indian Reservation. The area is the ancestral and current homeland to the Akimel O'odham, and non-tribal members cannot access these areas of the mountain. So the virtual field trip is one way to learn about the area without anyone trespassing on tribal land. Here's the virtual field trip to Kolmak Doak, or the Sierra Estrellas, which are directly south of Phoenix, Arizona. You can see a map situating the mountain as a natural boundary. The mountain is the center of being for the O'odham who live in this area. My own family lives directly in front of this mountain. The waypoint pins over here to the right indicate certain locations I chose to include in this trip. You can see that the Gila River, Santa Cruz River, and the Salt River flow near and around the mountain. The waypoints lead us to snapshots of the life that happened in the shadow of Comactuac. Views of Comactuac from the Gila River Bridge. This waypoint, for example, shows views of the Comactuac from the Gila River Bridge to the west, and it shows the vastness of the desert to the east. Gila River with water. This waypoint shows a picture of an area of the Gila River with water in it. The river is dry, however. There are some areas where water flows. Comac Village. The village of Comac is documented in the diaries of Father Eusebio Kino in the 1600s. The village is still as active as it was centuries ago. St. John the Baptist Mission in Levine. St. John's Mission was established in the 1890s as a church, and then as a mission and residential boarding school. The waypoints are examples of how the virtual tour enhances the setting of my book. It's important for me to point out that the pictures used in the waypoints are my own pictures. I took photos of each of these locations over time. They are authentic representations of the life of a people and of the places that are still bustling with activity, even centuries after they were first documented by foreign non-Indigenous travelers who passed through the area in the 1600s. I use the virtual field trip to create original, authentic, and meaningful content, which helps to establish a relationship with the land and with its people. Originally, I created the virtual field trip as a separate project. However, it fit nicely into an annotated hotspot in my book. ThingLink supported the interface with Tour Builder. I used my virtual field trip URL in Tour Builder to add a new text and media for a hotspot on page 1 of the book in ThingLink. Here you can see how the virtual field trip to Comac is embedded as a hotspot. When I click on the green photo icon, the field trip opens through the link. And we're back to the field trip here. Remember the demonstration of how to make a hotspot? I followed the same process of adding new text and media to embed the virtual field trip into page 1 of Sop Kapechu's story here. The virtual field trip creates a stronger connection to the character and his land as you are invited to visit and experience and be immersed in it for yourself.
The Google Tour Builder uses the Google Earth interface in some unique and important ways. First, it integrates maps to illustrate a look at the scenery through waypoints as you as a designer add and create your content. A viewer can zoom in, zoom out, and rotate 360 degrees, moving themselves around the trip for different views. Another aspect is the terrain. The terrain can be showed as visual markers for areas of interest. As Sherilyn showed, the images and captions in the Google Tour Builder interface are authored by you, the designer, with a personalized connection to your teaching objectives.
Embedding the virtual field trip into my book captured many meaningful features that, again, emphasized awesome pedagogies of using land, language, and culture in ways that honor and respect our traditional interactive and interpersonal teaching methods. Teaching from the land, even digitally, connects students and families to it. Using land as pedagogy connects us to the landscape, geography, and history of the area. Maps and navigation help us to explore and look around in more detail. The multisensory experience of sight, sounds, and imagery are reflected in the media. The virtual tour gives access to those who cannot see the land personally, and they can explore the terrain and geographical features in real time. Each of these aspects still keeps the focus on autumn pedagogies of teaching and learning. Thank you. We hope you've come away from our presentation inspired and enlightened. We invite you to continue the conversation in our follow-up discussion session on Thursday, October 22nd from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Thank you for coming to our session, and we look forward to talking with you and to answering your questions. Sapa.